So, I'm going to start today with two problems, right? The first problem is 70% of our country does not have a college degree, right? Take that in for a minute. The second is 80% of the jobs that are lost in our country are lost because of mental health or substance abuse disorder. Pretty impressive, right? When we think about it. What if I told you that one of those problems wasn't really a problem? What if I told you that if we concentrated on the skill and desires of a person and the resilience of human nature, that we could actually use that as the catalyst of change? Let's explore that for a minute. My name is Bob Zacchio. I'm the founder and CEO of Project Lift, an organization that's headquartered in South Florida. I want to take you back to 2010, before Project Lift actually started. As a licensed psychotherapist, I was sitting in that office with those 16-year-old boys, struggling for a way to connect with them. It's not very easy. Anybody ever ask a 16-year-old boy, "How are you today?" What's the answer? Give it to me. Fine. Fine. Mine's more commonly good. All right? Right? So this is how it would look. A quintessential office, couch over here on the left, my chair right here. So how are you today? Good. No substance, no pieces of the puzzle that were actually going to fit for us. Right? Anybody know what South Florida looks like? Lots of beaches, lots of oceans, rivers, lots of places to fish. South Florida is one of the fishing capitals of the world. More fishing is done there than any other place. So, as the great therapist I was, I figured I'm not going to have a therapy session anymore with these kids. I'm going to bring a fishing rod into work. I brought that fishing pole in, I sat down with that kid, and what we decided to do was tie what's called a dry fly, right? Anybody that knows fly fishing? A dry fly resembles an insect. It's plastic, and you tie it all together, and you make that piece of lure so that you can present the bait to the fish. I sat down with that kid in that office, and we sat for a half hour creating a dry fly. After that half hour was up, we walked out back to a retention pond. Now, the goal of that was to teach the kid how to cast a fly fishing rod. As we're casting, just as we're casting, before the bait's hitting the water, that kid's telling me all about the abuse, the neglect, the exploitation, the drunk, absent father, the promiscuous mother, and the anger that he felt. Now, that's nothing new. Taking a kid fishing isn't new. I think we've probably all done it at some point. We're in a building of caring people, right? But what is new and is unique is what happened next. I called a buddy of mine who was an ASE certified mechanic, and he was also in recovery, right? So he understood the processes. And I said to him, "Hey, do you want to turn wrenches with kids while I do psychotherapy underneath the hood of a car?" It was in that moment that I realized there was three things that we needed to deal with. One, destigmatizing mental health. We needed to take a look at mental health in a different way. We needed to get it outside of the clinical setting. Two, we needed to look at education differently. We needed to redefine what education was. You see, education isn't just about bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. It's about, do you know a lot about something? Little did I know at that moment that my fishing side hustle, was going to be a catalyst for change. That we were going to see in that moment an opportunity for us to take an entire system and transform it. That in that transformation, we would be looking at mental health models. We'd be looking at substance abuse models and jobs and trades and all those other things. 25 years ago, society took vocational training out of schools and began pushing college degrees. Measuring success not by what you knew, but by what college you went to. 100% of the kids that we work with are not going to college. That's okay, right? Each of our kids are paid a living wage for the work that they do. They're provided opportunities to work in 11 different vocational training fields. They're provided high-quality mental health counseling, and they're also given opportunities to have a teacher provided to them to work on a high school diploma. Now, that teacher does something very unique. They don't just provide a high school diploma. They actually use the vocational trade as the centerpiece of learning. Instead of taking reading, math, science, and English and making it the centerpiece, they actually take the trade of welding, the centerpiece of learning. Phoenix came to us from the Department of Juvenile Justice and also the drug courts. So there's a combination of those two things together where made the referral to us. He was broken, he was hurt, he was battered and beat up. He had actually almost died twice in a hospital bed because of alcohol poisoning. The last place he wanted to be was referred to another program. He came to us on the first day, and we walked him through an orientation. He came into our building, we set him up with the orientation, he walked in, he saw all 11 trades that were there. At the end of that day, we actually said to him, so what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to be? You just saw 11 different trades, from automotive repair to welding to carpentry to agriculture. He said, I want to be a welder. And it was almost like the first time this kid had ever been asked that particular question. What do you want to do? What is it that you want to be? So we had him come back the very next day to start our program. We didn't sit him down in a counseling office. We didn't go through tons of paperwork to get him onboarded. We simply walked him to the back of our building, hooked him up with our vocational instructor who was a welder, and said, go ahead and get started. He put protective gear on this kid. He put the shield on him. And then that instructor did something profound. He handed that young man a 2200-degree oxyacetylene torch. Right? That's normal. And trusted him. With sparks flying, Phoenix was changing. For the first time, he had trusted somebody that he never thought he could trust. For the first time, that guy trusted him and he felt trusted. All those things come back together. This is the most powerful tool in anybody's shop. And this kid was trusted with it for the first time. Now, the trust that's built with our vocational instructor is also built with our therapist. Phoenix. 18 years old, graduated Project Lift, sober, clean, and with a high school diploma. He was quickly snatched up by the local 630 union out of Palm Beach County, which is a pipe fitters union. He completed that program in the top 10 of his class at 18 years old, competing against 35-year-olds who have been doing it for 10 years. He's now making $14.53 an hour at Triumph, which is an airplane parts business down in our community. 8 years ago, we started with one therapist, one automotive repair technician, and 19 students. Today, we work with over 300 kids. We have 3 different sites across the state of Florida, and we have 19 districts from the Children's Services Councils of Florida looking to bring us into their communities because of these initiatives. Our therapists are, contrary to the way I'm speaking today, our therapists are asked and our leaders are asked to speak all across the country about jobs, drugs, and intergenerational poverty. We were able to take Project Lift and make it into the disruption of mental health, jobs, and drugs. Like Airbnb, they're a disruption of hospitality. I mean, who would have thought that you'd be sleeping at a perfect stranger's house and calling it a hotel, right? That's the disruption that Project Lift wants to be as well, and is, to mental health, education, and jobs. I mean, who would have thought that an automotive repair shop would be the perfect setting for recovery? Thank you.